Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Andy Hoop from Global E-commerce Experts, and this is the Expand E-commerce Expander Secrets podcast, coming to you live on a whole host of different platforms and channels, I'm sure, but also available as a recorded version on YouTube and our podcast on all good podcast sessions. But today's very exciting podcast today because I'm really excited to be joined by Prabhat. He's a marketplace consultant, helping online sellers, expand their presence on Amazon and eBay. He's got over 10 years experience and has worked both UK and international businesses. But I've been working with Prabhat, or talking to Prabhat for some time now. And it's amazing to have him on the podcast at last. We've gone backwards and forwards with various bits, and it's about time we got him on ours. So Prabhat, are you there? I can see you. So there's a good start.
Hello, Andy. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. Where are you calling from today?
Yeah, so I'm near Hereford today. So so it's good to be here and happy to chat with you, Andy.
Fantastic. So, obviously I've just given you a quick sentence about you, but I've probably not done it anywhere near as much justice as what you're going to be able to do. So why don't you give us a little introduction, a bit about who you are and what you currently do, but not in too much detail, because we want to leave some suspense for later.
Yes, no, I think you've done a good justice talking a little bit more about me. So I'll just repeat some of the things. Like I've started in the e-commerce space in 2007. So when I started, I worked for a company selling on Amazon and eBay. I started as a assistant there, where I looked after the eBay account to start with, and then that's how started this career. And now I'm working as a freelance consultant, helping Amazon sellers, eBay sellers sell online, basically. And there are two key things I do. One, I train businesses and individuals to sell better on Amazon, and also provide consultancy for anyone who wants to get work done through myself and my team.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's epic. So I think what we're going to do for those listening who have followed this format for a while, what we're going to do is get to know Prabhat slightly better before we get to what he's doing right now. Because for me, some of the most interesting bits we find when we talk to people who have got into e-commerce is the checkered history or the various routes into the industry that people have had. And for me, that's really interesting. So Prabhat, why don't you just give us a bit, perhaps, where you grew up, where you went to school, did your education, and from there we can then lead into, perhaps what was your first job afterwards?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. I'll have to take you many thousand miles away. So I was born in Kathmandu, Nepal, and where I grew up, and I've studied up to university there. So I moved to this country in 2007, really. So before I was in e-commerce industry, I was working with in a leprosy hospital in a southern part of Nepal. So there is a big chunk of changeover from what I do now, but I think it's the adaptability I've learned over the years. So at the moment, when I started with e-commerce, it wasn't easy to be perfectly honest, because it's completely different field. But I think if I can do it, I think that's a good weakness in some ways. So if I personally can do it in terms of coming to this country, learning all the tricks of the trade, and working with online sellers now, helping them to sell online, I think anybody else should be able to do it now.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's interesting. I see. This is why I like doing these, because I get to know people much better. I love that. So, did you say you were working in a hospital in Nepal? Was that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I used to work in a leprosy hospital, which is you can imagine it's a biblical disease, and today nobody knows about it, but it's a prevalent there in southern part of Nepal, and it still exists. It's one of the busiest leprosy hospitals in the world. It's called Nepal Leprosy Trust.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? Because that, there are certain parts of the world where some of these diseases, I suppose, are still prevalent, that you sort of forget about, because you don't absorb that every day. And I think that's really key to understand those differences around the world. That's amazing. So, with Nepal, it's one of those places that's on my sort of to-do list. That's sort of the different rate. Like I've just got the mountains in my head. That's all I can.
Yeah.
I can just see all these amazing mountains and stuff. But it's not just mountains in Nepal, is it?
So in one part, in northern part, I would say mountains. So Mount Everest, obviously, is because
Yep.
of Mount Everest we are known to the world. But we've got valleys in the middle part, and then we've got plains. So you can talk from snowy mountains to 40 degrees temperature in the plains. So there is a quite contrast in the weather conditions, if you like. So
Yeah.
if you do want to go there, Andy, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And the pretty obvious things a lot of people do want to do is trekking. So
Yes.
yeah, it's good to get things planning. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll avoid the south then, where it's hot, and I'll aim for the middle, where it's not so hilly and nice. But yeah, I think that's amazing. So okay. So you headed here in 2007, and well, that's the UK, should I say?
Yeah.
And that's when you started the e-commerce journey. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely. So I worked, like I said, in 2007, I got a job to work in an e-commerce company where there was eBay as a small business there. They had cash and carry and import export, but eBay was a starting up. And that's how I started
Yeah.
this e-commerce journey.
Okay, so you start, because I think that, and that's a really good point, that the eBay journey, if I think back to 2007, right then, Amazon wasn't really a thing. I mean, I'd started selling on Amazon probably around about that time, but eBay was vast.
Yeah.
Everyone was buying and selling on eBay, whereas they weren't really buying on Amazon particularly. I mean, I appreciate that people were, but it wasn't anywhere near the volume that it is today. I mean, it was huge, because I think that the model that eBay had at the time was just it was just new to everyone, and everyone was just sort of on that bandwagon, weren't they? It was new, it was exciting, it was online, it was a marketplace, and everything else. So, what do you think over that time when you were doing that? First of all, how long were you doing that for? And secondly, what do you think the key things you learned were during that period?
Yes, so I think it's really important to understand how e-commerce works, and also
Yeah.
it's really good to understand the whole process. So the way I learned was actually listing the product, actually managing customer support, actually, packing the product. So, it's from A to Z really. So I worked in-house for 6 years, and my role within the company changed over the period of time. So when it started getting busier, we started with eBay. Then I looked into it. Is there any other way to expand that product? Which is obvious thing to think about when you want to expand your business. Where else can you sell?
Yeah.
Then Amazon was something that I thought of, but it wasn't something that everybody wanted to sell at, because Amazon must have had a vendor program then. Now I know
Yeah.
there is a vendor program, but then I wasn't even aware of it. Then I
Yeah.
started looking into whether we can sell. And then we opened the account. We started listing products there. And then within 6 to 8 months period, we saw Amazon leveling up with eBay sales. And this was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. I think over, you say that leveling up, over what period do you think that happened?
No,
Was there
over
a
8 months
crossover?
period. Over 8 months period.
Yeah. That's bonkers,
It was.
isn't it?
It is really quick. It is really
Yeah.
quick.
Amazing. I
And
love that. So you did that for 6 years.
yeah.
What sort of products was it?
So it's a mix of products. So it's a home and kitchen. It was DIY. It was fishing. It's because it was cash and carry. There's broad range of products were carried on,
Yeah.
and we took eBay at that time as one of the channel to sell more.
Yeah.
So at that time also, it's interesting to find out that sometimes singles doesn't sell as much as packs of 12s or 16s or 18s. And for us, it was pack sizes we wanted to sell, because that means we've got less labor. It's less
Volume.
labor intensive. Volume. Yeah, volume. And we wanted to shift that volume to the best we can.
Yeah.
And we couldn't believe ourselves when we started selling, because it was interesting. So
Yeah. I love that. So you did that for 6 years. What was
yes.
sort of your next step into the e-com world? What happened after that?
Yeah, so within that 6 years time, I think I looked into doing something else within that time. And I'm sort of, it may be my habit of trying to look something else within what I can do. And a little bit a challenge for me, it was to
Yeah,
try and reach out to other people, because on your own, when you work and you can read things, but there is nothing better than meeting someone. And I looked into meetup groups, and that was interesting at the time that there was meetup groups in London, there were meetup groups in various places. So I thought, if I've not got meetup within area I'm living, why not I start? So I started a meetup group in Cardiff then, and started with 10, 15 people. And that's when I started learning a bit more, because when you see people, you pick up one or two key things. And yes, it's good for my personal development, but also for my work, because where I work, I brought that knowledge and started implementing it. And at
yeah,
the same time, there's connection. There's connection. And then, as you can see, Andy, that sort of meetups and meetups and groups like that turned out into a conference now, which you'll be speaking, AmmoFest next year. So,
yeah.
so it started very small, but I think it grew into some sort of larger conference, so to say.
Yeah, that. So I didn't realize that again. This is what I love about this. Well, it started from a meetup. So you
Yes.
started doing. So they were your meetups that you were organising in your local area, I presume.
That's right. So we start
Yeah,
with Cardiff, and then we easily went into other places. Like we started with Manchester. Then it was very obvious place to go to, because there are lots of e-com sellers. We went up to Newcastle.
yeah,
We did quite a few in London. We went into Brighton. So uh, from Newcastle down to Manchester, down to Birmingham. We did in London. We did in Brighton and Leeds. So most of the area were covered, and I did that for, I think, at least 5 years. Um,
and what better way? I mean, I'm big on education anyway, but that ability to, think. Well, I tell you what, I want to learn a bit more. I want to meet some like-minded people. Let's create a meetup, and let's go and learn from each other. And you created that almost into, well, you've made that into something, right? You've made that into events and everything else. I think that's really, really important, that the ability to be able to switch those things around. So you did that for 5 years. Over that period, at what point did you think, well, this is like, there's a business opportunity here?
mhm. Yes, so within first few meetups, we thought, okay, there is a good of interest,
Mm.
and as soon as I started getting 20 to 30 attendees, there was interest for other speakers to come in, and
Yep.
also there was an interest from different service providers to come in and talk to
Mm.
people, have their thought leadership, and also make a business out of them. So for me, it was interesting because there was a demand. Then I thought, let's try and do sponsorship, which is very obvious. So I started,
Yep.
some service providers started sponsoring it, and yeah, within few meetups, that started on that. And then it continued throughout, um, and within that 5 years period, at the time, towards the end of that 5 period, I thought there are lots of other people doing the similar stuff,
Mm.
uh,
Yep.
and I've got to be honest, as much as I liked it, it is not easy, because
No.
when you travel, so it's a very early start, very late comeback. And I did tie that up with training program, because as Online Seller UK, we started as a training organization since the start. I did tie up with the training, so we used to do training in the day from 9 till 5, and meet up in the evening. So you can imagine, return to home with like midnight is normal on a day like this. So all this kept, and I thought, let's try do something else. And then we started doing a full day conference in Manchester.
Yep.
We did a couple of them in Manchester. It was more of a general focus in e-commerce. A later part, we started with AmmoFest, just to focus on Amazon sellers only.
Yeah. What was that? What was the switch? Why was it more general and then it switched more just towards the AMA? What was that switch and why?
Yeah, so I think there has to be some focus on things I do,
Yep.
as our work has changed as well. So uh, in the past, we were doing training on Google Analytics to Google AdWords to email marketing to SEO to everything else, along with Amazon and eBay. So my background is marketing, digital marketing. Amazon is part of it. So, but if you look at it, if you don't have focus, then you sort of don't know where you're going. And there was a natural trend towards Amazon support. There was a lot of demand with Amazon sellers, so it made very common sense to start, let's try and do Amazon only conference.
Yep.
And we started, and initially we got 200 attendees, and then don't think we've stopped. So obviously past 2 years it's been difficult. We did online one, but I think it's good to continue that in the next few years.
So when was the first one then? What year was that?
It's a good point. I cannot remember, to be honest. So if I go back, it's 2018, no, 2017, we did a general conference.
Yeah.
Then
So the first one was 200 people.
Yes, that's right.
That's amazing, isn't it? The first one, 200 people. Yeah, that's a relief in itself, isn't it? Because you put events on and then you're thinking, well, is anyone going to turn up? Is anyone not going to? How many people are going to turn up? What am I going to do? That was amazing. So well done. Yeah, that's epic.
Yeah, I got to be honest. So even now, with next year conference 2022 March, that's where coming along. Until that day is finished, it's always you got a thought in mind that whether we've got enough people to come in. But we've seen last year we had to stop the ticket from sales because there was so much demand. So let's see what happens. The output is. And I think what we need to look at is whatever we are doing through this conference, we are connecting with people, and that's important one. And if we don't have a conference, or if we didn't have a conference, I wouldn't be talking to you today, Andy.
No.
To be fair.
Yeah. No.
So
right.
yeah, so it's good to have that connection, and in a overall taking at the bigger picture, if you can imagine, 10 speakers coming, 20 speakers coming, a couple of hundred of people coming along. This time we've got a small one, but when they connect, it may give a greater benefit to those people than myself. And a lot of people look at this as a lead generation channel for us. It's not always true for us because a lot of people don't convert to our business. However, I've seen a lot of times that speakers benefit from it, and especially the people who attend, they benefit a lot. And it's about giving back to community as well. Otherwise, it will be boring trying to just do what you do every day.
Do you know, for anyone listening who's never been to an event of any type, then you're massively, my lights seem to have gone out. Then you're massively missing out on the opportunity to learn from others, network, hear from industry experts. There's so much opportunity that people should be able to glean from any event. It doesn't matter even if I say even if you talks about meetups, you can get so much value from a local meetup. If you're doing e-commerce meetups or whatever it happens to be, there's so many things there that you can learn from, and you should be able to get out and go and see people. It doesn't matter where you are, where you're listening. There's virtual events, there's online events, they're the same thing, in-person events. I think that everyone now is desperate to get out and talk to people and see people, because I think we've been missing that. And I think everyone wants that now. And why not get out, see people, and educate yourself on that way? So while we're on that, then let's do a shout out for that. And just talk about that. So the next one's in March 2022. Obviously registration's open, I presume. But do you want to just talk about what that looks like and where it is and all that while we're on this subject of events, because we might as well talk about it now.
Yes, absolutely. So it's 11 March 2022. So it's in Manchester. Registry is open. It's about £49 plus VAT for the ticket. We've got 10 plus speakers, and we'll be covering things like marketing on Amazon, expanding globally, including Europe. And you are talking obviously about the expanding into Europe side. And there are other things like vendor, managing the vendor account, So, and also there are other things like how to start your own Amazon sale. So we've got a really good panel discussion on Amazon private labels, and there are lots of good speakers in there. So it's all full of practical advice and some inspirations that you'll get. And it's a full day. And we're trying to also do after the event drinks as well, so you can network with people. And also we are working on to put pre-event dinner as well. So there will be lots going on, and I'd suggest you come in. Definitely.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you just for those listening, what we as from an example from our point of view when we're talking, we started about a couple of years ago, and we were going to come to one of the ones in Manchester, but it was cancelled because of everything that was going on, just how it is. But the way that as a speaker at one of these events, you were really there to just serve. And all right, yes, global e-commerce experts, we would love to make some business off the back of it. Of course we would. But the reality is people going to these events, you're going to be educated. They're not going to be sold at. And I think the reality is that, for me, I'm there to serve. I want to give you, I will just talk to people about what they need to do to expand, give people, the steps, the processes, and whatever, people will be able to go off and go and do it themselves. They've just got to note down everything I say, get the slides after in one form or another, and you'll be able to go and action that. And I think that's really, really important that the speakers at all of these events, yes, they're there to expand their brand. Of course they are. I see this for us as branding exercise, letting people know in the UK who we are and what we do, because since Brexit, actually before Brexit, no one in the UK was really our market. We expanded people to Europe. That's what we did. But of course, come Brexit, everyone wants to expand into Europe now because they stopped doing it. So that's where, but from if you're thinking, what's going through a speaker's mind, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak on our behalf. We're there to serve, and you should go to these events. I will give you everything in order for you to go away and expand to Europe. Jot, 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 tick box, and off you go. So if you're not sure, yes, there'll be an opportunity to, to listen, learn, educate, and talk to, industry experts about what they do after at the dinners, either before or after. So if you're not sure, 11th of March next year, Ammerfest in Manchester. That is the only downside for me, is in Manchester. But I'm based in Southampton. That's the only reason, just so we're very clear. I'm northeast or anything like that anyone wants to get onto. But that's fine. So there we go. So Ammerfest, 11th of March next year. You need to be involved in that. Massive opportunity for anyone who wants to educate themselves on, Amazon specifically. There we go.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Wicked. So we've talked about events. But obviously, events is only one part of the business, isn't it? Because, we talked about the consultancy side and everything else. So where did that bit start to come? You started saying that, well, when we were doing the events, we were meeting people during the day as well. So I guess that all come hand in hand, did it?
Yes. So with regards to other sites, so we were doing training, quite a bit of training around the country. And the training involved, doing Amazon training, eBay training, various levels. So the events and training become a handy because it's both about meeting people, right? So it's all about, like you said, serving people to the best you can. And with training side, we really brought in some of the practical aspects of Amazon and eBay, because I have worked practically on the account, so I've got practical experience with it. So I brought that across in the training. And sometimes we think some of the basic things people know it already, but it's not always true. But so you can bring in your practical experience in the events and training like that, and people will really benefit from that.
Yeah, fantastic. And presumably we talked about online sellers there. So is there an area you prefer, or is it just, general support across, a different number of marketplaces?
Yeah, so at the moment, Amazon and eBay is a primary market. So we've also looked into other channels like Cdiscount and Bolt.com. Now, these are another channels in the Europe. Obviously, yourself, Andy, you help people expand into Europe itself. So it's good for any online sellers to look other channels, because those channels are niche, and sometimes you get less competition there, which means you've got a higher chance of profit and sales growth. So
Yeah.
it's good to keep an open mind on those channels as well.
That's interesting. Let's pick up on that bit. So, what do you see? There's obviously new marketplaces coming through. We're seeing all the time. What do you see as sort of the future? What marketplaces are? And let's talk UK for the moment. What marketplace are you seeing coming through? Where do you see that market going?
Yeah, so I think we are seeing a lot of niche market places as well. Like, there are marketplace just to sell food items, there are marketplace just to sell shoes, and so on. So now these marketplaces are there to help you increase your customer base, and a
Yeah.
lot of marketplaces, they've got their own marketing budget. They put you out there, and it's good to explore this, see, because on your
Mm.
own, and just being in one marketplace, which is very competitive, it will eat up your margin. So it's
Yeah.
always look out for various other niche marketplaces that you can go. One of the popular one you can see, there is Mano Mano for DIY, for instance. So if somebody is in
Mm.
a DIY market, they would obviously go in there to see if there is get any additional sales, and it may bring 20% of the sales, but that 20% may be with a higher profit.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because when you're expanding, and let's talk about expanding to Europe or wherever, you know, a lot of people say, well, I'm already on Amazon, so I'll expand with Amazon. And I
Yeah,
think that's amazing because, you know, you get the opportunity to use the same interface, right? It's
yeah,
easy, isn't it? Right? You just go from one to the
yeah,
other. But the reality is when you start going into Europe, you mentioned Cdiscount as a prime example in France. It's a massive, massive marketplace in France. It's as big as Amazon. And when you start to say, well, I'm already doing, let's pick a number, 10,000 euros a month on your Amazon France. Well, you could be doing 20,000 in Europe because it's a similar size. Now, there's a few ifs, buts, maybes, who, whys, whens in that. But it's definitely things that you should consider. The omni-channel approach of different marketplaces is absolutely critical to the success of sellers when they're expanding, without any shadow of a doubt. Okay, all right, good. So, Prabhat, what do you see happening over this next 3 to 6 months? Where do you see e-commerce going? What sort of things are you hearing and seeing in the industry right now?
yes. So there are a lot of I hear a lot of things about going into other channels. Like, if you are in the US, there is a lot of focus on Walmart,
Yeah.
expanding into Walmart. I also hear Amazon is becoming really competitive. So just
Mm.
staying on Amazon, it's not an option anymore. We need to sell on other websites, like, for example, Shopify. For example,
Yeah.
it's a good website to start expanding into. But however, we've got also limitations for a lot of Amazon sellers, because we are very much dependent on FBA. As you
Yeah.
know, before COVID hit, or just about that time, uh, Amazon stopped taking uh, any deliveries from
Yeah.
FBA sellers. So that must have been very, very difficult time for a lot of people, because they didn't know what to do, because you are so much dependent on them.
Mm.
uh, I know it's a very common topic not to depend on one channel, but it really is. And this is the time now, when your sales is increasing, get your converting. Amazon and eBay is always going to be cash cow, because it's always going to generate you some sales. But while you are doing that, see what else you can do. How can you build your brand? And expanding online to Shopify is a good thing to do. And this is something I think we are seeing a lot of a trend now, and hence the demand for fulfillment places, like what you do, Andy, as
Yeah.
your service provider.
Nice plug.
If
Thank
any,
you.
yeah, so it's anybody, when we are used to FBA, we need to level up with FBA service,
Mm.
and service providers like yourself, Andy. I'm sure you can take in the whole lots of feed from Shopify or any other channels, and
Yeah.
and fulfill the order. So that's your problem solved.
Yeah.
And then, because of Seller Fulfill Prime, you can have a similar level of service there. So it's very difficult to side away from Amazon. I'm not saying that we can't stop not selling on Amazon, because it's generates sales. If we talk to people, and some of the people, they say if you sell on eBay, Amazon is like, for example, 3 or 4 times more. Okay, fine. It's not for all categories, but it's fine. But if the account is shut, and we all know, if the account is shut, it can be shut for a couple of weeks, months, and you got wages to pay and all that sort of thing. So it's good to expand when you can.
Do you know that you, as you say, that omni-channel approach, that fulfillment house, Amazon just shut its doors. What happens if Amazon shuts its doors again? You need a fulfillment center, storage facility, somewhat may. We even suggest now, coming off the back of you're talking about that, where we say to sellers that actually what you should be doing is, even you're using FBA, you should probably have one SKU that you can get seller fulfilled Prime on, so that if Amazon does shut Amazon doors again, you've got Prime ready to go straight away. You only have to do it for one SKU. You don't have to do it for everything. It's not like everything has to be seller fulfilled Prime. You can do it for just one SKU. And I think that's really important, that people are getting really annihilated with their IPI score and their ability to get stock into Amazon. We got clients that are bringing containers in, and they just can't send everything in that they could send in. It's bonkers. So I think that's really, really key, that how else can you diversify? If Amazon shuts your doors today, where are you going to get your cash from? What's that look like? Totally agree. Okay, Prabhat, that was amazing. If people want to get in contact with you, people want to learn more about what you do, how you do it, and to have a conversation with you, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always, you can always get in touch through our website, OnlineSellerUK.com. There's a contact us form, and you can just find me there. Or if you want to connect me in LinkedIn, my name is Prabhat Shah, and just search me out in Google and you'll find me, and we can connect.
Fantastic. Okay. And we'll have some links below, above, wherever that might be, depending on where you're looking into it or where you're reviewing this later. So Prabhat, that's been super interesting, really, really insightful. It's been amazing having you on. Thank you very much for your time. It really, really is much appreciated, because I know your time's precious. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, Andy.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another e-commerce Expander Secrets podcast. It's been amazing. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, if anything expansion related, get in contact. We'd love to support you. We're here to serve and support your needs expanding into Europe. That's it from us. Stay safe. Look after yourself. This was Andy from Global E-commerce Experts. Thank you very much. Cheers, Prabhat.